Today, we're talking about wingmen, or how to be a good wingman, or how to work with a wingman. What is a wingman? A wingman is someone who helps you when you are talking to women. It is your buddy who is assisting in the process of being able to meet and attract the women that you are interested in, that you're talking to, that you're approaching. So that's what we're going to go over today. And I'll be honest with you, it's not that long. There's not much to say here. There's only a few things, and I'm going to give you my opinions, my thoughts, and even share some stories from when I was going out and I was being a wingman and when people were wingmanning me. This is in the very beginning when I was first learning. When I was first learning, I did do a lot of wingman stuff, only to find out a few lessons as I went through this process, which, again, I'm going to be sharing with you here today. All right, first things first. Do you need a wingman? I think that's the very first question that needs to be answered. Do you need a wingman? I would say the answer, if I had to give a yes or no, black and white, is no. I know that's a funny thing to start off with, seeing that this episode is about how to be a good wingman and how to get a wingman and all that stuff, but I want to give it straight to you. At the end of the day, you don't need a wingman. First of all, I coach and my team coaches hundreds of guys, and there is no requirement to get a wingman, and guys end up doing amazing in the program without a wingman. You yourself, as you're going through, let's say, the courses or just this podcast, and you're going out, you're implementing things, you don't need a wingman to learn all this stuff. You can absolutely go out on your own and you can be talking to women, and you don't need someone there. My next sub-question to this is, does it still help? I think yes and no. Sometimes it helps, and actually sometimes it hurts. And I'll say the answer to why it hurts sometimes, which is to support what I'm saying here of why you most likely don't need a wingman, is because when you have a wingman, it can sometimes take you away from the prize. I remember when I was first going out, and I was in a group of guys who were in a forum together, and there'd be meetups, and it was all around meeting women and pickup. We'd all go out, and I was a newbie, so this is over 12, 13, 14 years ago, around there, and I was a newbie, and I had really bad approach anxiety. So you better believe that when I was going out, I wasn't approaching as much, and I had a crutch. I could just hang out with these other guys. And when we'd all go out, everyone was at different levels. Some people were doing approaches, some people were kind of hanging back, and it made it a lot easier to not get it done. And so I warn people out there, when you have a wingman, it can hurt because it can prevent you from talking to more women and doing more approaches. And we don't want that, because the name of the game at the end of the day is volume. Of course, it's fun. It's fun to go out with your friends, and it's fun to approach with friends. I get it. That's a fun time. And I think there's a time and a place for that. I'm not saying never go out with your friends and do that. But if you really want to get good at this, and you want to make sure nothing holds you back, I would go out alone. Now, a lot of guys say, well, isn't it better to go out with a wingman, because you end up approaching groups because there's no women who go out who are alone. They're always with their friends. So don't you want a friend there to distract? So you don't actually need that. I will admit, though, it does help sometimes, but you don't actually need that. And you don't actually need that because women who are single, most of the time, I will say, they are supportive of their friends being with a guy. Not all the time, but a lot of the times, at least from my experience, what I've seen, if you're going over to, let's say, a group of 3 or 4 women, and you're cool, by the way, so you approach the one woman you like, and you're not completely ignoring the friends, and you're bringing in the group of friends a little bit and talking to them, but you're still focusing on the girl that you like. If you do this well enough, her friends will like you, and they'll actually be okay with you talking to her. I actually just had this example literally less than a week ago when I was going out. If you listen to the last episode, I talked about how I went out and I recorded a bunch of approaches. And I had something happen, which I remember happened to me as well when I was first learning this. And what happened was I went over to 2 women. So imagine that, by the way, 2 women. So just keep that in mind. This is very important for this approach. There was only 2 women, and I go over and I talk to them. And as about 5-6 minutes into the conversation, as time went on, I was clearly, and I made it clear, hitting on one of the girls. And when it became absolutely clear that I was interested in one of them, I kid you not, 30 seconds later, the friend just got up. She just left. Not because she was angry and she didn't get her friend to come with her. She knew what was going on. She was supportive of her friend being with me. And that happens. And I come back to this idea that it's crazy that it was only 2 women, because imagine that one woman, she didn't have any other friends. So here she is coming to a bar with her girlfriend. She has nowhere else to be. There's no other one to talk to. And yet she still left to give her friend that chance. Now you're going to be going out and you're going to have groups of women, right? 3, 4, 5 women. And in those cases, it makes it even easier because you can talk to one of the girls, make friends with everyone for a second, and talk to the one you're interested in. And then all the other girls are just hanging out with each other. And they are doing their thing while they're letting their friend get hit on and talk to you. Okay, so with all that said, you don't necessarily need a wingman. You don't. You can go out and do this alone. Is it harder at first? Yes, it is. Is it nice to have someone go with you as you're learning this? Of course it is. I just warn you that sometimes your approach anxiety will force you to stay with your friend. So if you're going to go out with the wingman, you got to make sure that you guys are on the same level. So even earlier when I was first starting and going out with just 1 or 2 wingmen instead of a group of guys, I mean, we were just sitting in our approach anxiety together and we didn't do any approaches at all. So if you're going to go out, you got to be very selective with who you go out with. If you have really bad approach anxiety, I wouldn't go out with a guy who has similar approach anxiety. You got to go out with someone who's going to push you and who's better than you. Otherwise, go out alone. At least that will force you to talk to people and not sit there and talk to your wingman. So you need someone who's going to be a level above you and also on the same level of mindset. And that is, we are going out to talk to women. Because there's about 3 different mindsets in terms of going out. There's, hey, I'm going out with my buddies to just have a good time and drink. Then there's this kind of in-between mindset of, hey, I'm going out with my buddies, we're going to drink, maybe we'll talk to some girls. And then the third is, we're going out to meet women. So if you are in that third category of you're trying to get better at meeting women, you better be going out with someone who's interested in doing that. Because what's going to happen is if you go out and do this, yeah, I'm going to have a good time and like kind of drink and like hang out with my friends, but I also want to talk to women. A lot of that time you don't get a lot of good learning lessons in. And then you can't really have a wingman because they're not even that interested, or they're nervous, or they're not trying to learn this stuff. So you feel kind of weird going off on your own and talking to girls while your friends are all having a good time. It just doesn't line up right. So I'm trying to talk to you, person listening, who's interested in getting better at meeting women. And if that's the case, again, either you go out alone or you have a wingman who is better than you if you have bad approach anxiety, or at the very worst, you guys are on the same level. We're going out, we're trying to meet women, we're practicing stuff, we're listening to this podcast, you're going through a course, you're going through coaching, whatever it may be, and you guys are going out to work on something specific. And then you can really play good wingman game. Then at that point, the next tips I'm going to give you really come into play really well. And then you can be a really good wingman. So here's a few tips for being a good wingman if you find yourself in that great position of having someone who wants to go out and is on the same level as you. When I say same level as you, I mean the same mindset as you, not the actual skill level. We already talked about that. Okay, rules for being a good wingman, just a few. First off, no matter what, and I know this is going to sound obvious, but you'd be surprised what happens sometimes when you get into these conversations. This has happened to me quite a bit. Rule number 1, you always make sure, here's a little pickup term from back in the day I'll give you. It's called DHV your wingman, or demonstrate higher value. Basically, pickup-y term for you need to bring your wingman up. He's your buddy. You support him all the way. You do not tease your wingman. You do not make him look bad. It's interesting how that has to be discussed with your wingman before. I've gone out with guys sometimes, and they'll take over the conversation and kind of tease you a little bit. And it's like joking. They're not making fun of you or trying to hurt you, but guys give each other shit, right? There's like, that's what we do sometimes. It's not really cool to do that though in front of women. It doesn't make either of you look good. You look like a bad friend when you do that, because women don't understand that. So they might take it a little bit more seriously, even if it's like joking around. So you want to bring and build your wingman up. You want to always make sure that anything you're saying, not every single thing out of your mouth, but if it's appropriate and it comes out, you're only saying good things about the friend that you're with and how awesome he is. I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm just saying that is something that should be done, and it should not be the other option, which again is some sort of tease or something like that. So you're building them up. You guys are buddies. You support each other. That should be shown when you guys are going over to approach. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2. This is debatable. I know some people break this rule, but I think this is just smart for approaching. Don't approach together. I don't know. I just don't think it's a great idea. Don't approach together. Have one person go over, open up the conversation, and then have the other person come in. I think it makes for a smoother approach. I'd say the only exception to that is if it's a really big group of women. It's like, I don't know, we'll say 5, 6 plus women. Then it's okay. One person goes to one end, another guy goes to the other end. It's not a big deal. I just think it can be overwhelming and tough, and it actually just makes it harder on you on starting the conversation, and it's just too much is happening at once. If you have, for example, you and your wingman going over and talking to 2 women or 3 women or something to that degree. Again, this is debatable. Can you break this rule and still be fine? Yes. I just think it makes it easier for you. It's easier for the practice. And so with this case, what happens is one person goes over, does the approach, opens up, and then let's say, I don't know, a minute or 2 later, the wingman comes in, the other guy comes in and kind of taps his buddy on the shoulder, and then the person who went and approached introduces the friend who just came in. Okay, and another thing, this is not a rule or something you have to do, but it was just something that me and my buddy did. I think I talked about this on the podcast before. Me and my buddy, we wanted to have some sort of sign of telling the other guy which girl we were interested in, right? So if you go over and approach a group of women, it's, I think, nice for you to get the shot at the woman that you're interested in. But how are you going to let your wingman know that? What if your wingman starts talking to the girl that you're actually interested in? So one thing you can do is this is what we did at least, is kind of lightly touch the girl that you're interested in. Or be very overt with introducing your wingman to the girl you're interested in. So for example, you're like, oh yeah, just met these girls. This is Stephanie, right? So it's like, oh, okay. So he's obviously interested in her. Or if there's some sort of touch, if I touch her like on the shoulder really lightly or on the elbow really lightly, it makes it known, okay, this is the one I'm interested in. And then the wingman, the guy who just came in, your buddy, can then start talking to the other women. And what helps, of course, and I think one of the reasons why wingmen exist is for this sole reason, is it helps, for lack of a better word, distract, but I would say it makes it easier for you and your girl of interest to be in a conversation while her friends are not pulling her away. And then they get to talk to that guy. And then from there, he ends up maybe picking one, or maybe he's just a good wingman and he's just talking to them, and who knows what happens from there. So that would be the few rules that I would put in place in order to be a really good wingman. I don't think there's really much after that. I mean, you can come up with all sorts of stuff, but if we're talking about the 80-20, the 20% of actions that have 80% of the effects, it would be these aforementioned rules. And so that's what I would put into practice if you're going out with your buddies, if you decide to do the wingman route. I would also say this. I'm making this up right now as I'm saying to you, but it's something that came to my mind. I feel in order for you to get good at this, what's really important is you earn the wingman. And I think that it's really important for you to experience going out alone and doing some approaches on your own, because like I said, you need to be going up to a group anyways on your own. So there's no difference between whether you're with people or not. It's really good for you to go out alone and just get through an uncomfortable social situation where I know it's tough. It's like going out alone to approach women. Most guys don't do that. You're going to feel weird. You're going to feel like women are judging you or whatever. Good. This is going to make you mentally stronger. This is going to be more helpful for you when you are trying to do social anxiety exercises. So I feel that you should go out at least once alone before you start doing the wingman game as a way to kind of earn that badge. And then you can get a wingman. I wish I did that. I'll admit it. I did not do that. I wish I did. I started with wingmen. I went the opposite way. As I started going out with guys, we went out together. And then it wasn't until years later I realized, man, it is so much better going out alone. You just don't have to worry about your friends and what they're doing, and you don't have to worry about anything, and it doesn't have to be so structured, and you just have a lot more freedom, and there's more learning lessons that come into play, and you're set up to do harder approaches, which is just going to make you do better. So I really, really recommend that you do go out alone. And I'll say this too. When you go out alone, I know that guys get really scared to do it because they feel that women might be judging them because they went out alone. You're going to be shocked when you find out, even though I can tell you right now, but you'll find out for yourself, women don't care. They don't care. They're not going to be concerned about who you came with, if you came with people. You are more in your head, so you're more concerned and you're more conscious of it. They don't care. All they care is they're talking to you. So if you're making a good impression and the conversation's going well, she is just going to be talking to you and be excited to talk to you. She's not going to assume you're some weird guy going to a bar because you're a social, cool dude. So you're already proving to her in this kind of, how do I say, you're sub-communicating to her that it's not a big deal and you're not a weird dude because you're just being a social, fun guy, and she's getting the sense of that. Not that any of that matters, because we should not be going into any of this caring what people think about us. But I know that you're going to go into this situation caring what people think about you. So I just want to make you feel a little bit better and ease your way into the situation that they don't care. You can go out alone. I've done it so many times. My coaching clients have done it so many times. I've never experienced, nor have I heard anyone ever experiencing, I don't know, some rejection or some weird conversation where the girls are like, why did you come alone? You're a weirdo. Like, that just doesn't happen. A lot of those things that you think in your head that people are judging you for are usually just not happening. It's just this intense self-consciousness that's going on because of your low self-esteem that is making you not feel confident. Imagine this. The most confident guy in the world doesn't need to have any sort of external validation, so he's going to do whatever he wants. And an example of that is just going out to a bar and talking to women and socializing and having a good time. So I want you to be able to do that too without having any thought of what people are thinking about you. So you do not need a wingman. I know I'm really pushing that agenda here. I did give you some rules if you want it, but I just want you to have the freedom to know that you can go out with or without your friends, and you have all of those situations available to you.